This is why they call me Miss Petty, and this is also why you should never let your boyfriend have a girl best friend. Let's get right into it. So my boyfriend had this girl best friend who he was friends with for like 2 months before he met me. So yeah, not a very long time. Over the course of those 2 months, she had bought him $5,000 worth of stuff. That's a little too nice for a best friend for me. But my boyfriend told me to trust him and that they were just friends. I should try and talk to her and shit, maybe me and her could even become friends. So me and her actually did hang out one day. It was me, her, and my boyfriend, and we were all drinking. My boyfriend passed out a little early, so it was only me and her awake. I was getting really tipsy and I ended up throwing up all over myself. My boyfriend's girl best friend laid my head back on the sink and started washing my hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if I spoke too soon about her? What if she's actually not that bad? And she was washing my hair so nice, I felt smooth as silk. A little too smooth and silky. Well, I woke up the next morning to notice that my boyfriend's best friend is gone. And when I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror, I was completely bald. Part 2 of why they call me Miss Petty. So like I said, when I woke up, my boyfriend's best friend wasn't there. And when I looked in the mirror, I was completely bald. So I woke up my boyfriend and he's shocked. He's like, what the fuck did you do? And I was like, what the fuck did I do? I know his best friend did this. When I texted her number, the messages weren't going through. And when I checked her socials, I was blocked on everything. I made my boyfriend DM her on Insta, but we watched her Instagram story and there were so many pictures of me bald while I was asleep. At this point, I was literally bawling my eyes out. My long, luscious hair was gone. I even called my mom. Mind you, we were all in college. So yeah, like I said, I was bawling. I was honestly ready to give up on life right then and there. I was regretting even going to college. I'm just kidding, stay in school, kids. But those tears ain't last for long, child. I was gonna get my sweet revenge. So little old me made a sugar daddy page. I did some follow for follows so I could get some followers so it could look legit. And I posted some pictures of an old man I found on Facebook. Then I DM'd her and asked her if she wanted to be my sugar baby. And she said yes. This is where the fun begins, like for part 3. This is part 3 of why they call me Miss Petty. So I made a fake sugar daddy page and DM'd my boyfriend's girl best friend and asked her if she wanted to be my sugar baby. And she said yes. You want to know why she said yes? Well, that $5,000 worth of stuff she bought for my boyfriend came in handy. A week had passed since she posted all those pictures of me bald while sleeping. Oh, by the way, she saw Nair in the bathroom and used that to wash my hair. Well, a week passed and over that week, I sold all the stuff she bought for my boyfriend. I actually ended up getting like $6,000 back. So basically I told her I would pay her $1,000 a week in exchange for some sexy pics. And I sent her $700 right there so she thought it wasn't fake. Bitch didn't even know she was getting her own money back. So I sent her $1,000 a week for 5 weeks in exchange for pictures. Well, once all the money ran out, it was time for revenge. I gathered up all the pictures that she sent me, made a fake page pretending to be her, and sent the pictures to her parents, her job, the school, and to multiple girls' boyfriends on Instagram with the text, break up with your girlfriend cause I'm bored, but shh, don't tell anyone. Like for part 4. This is part 4 of why they call me Miss Petty. So after I catfished my boyfriend's girl best friend and posted her nudes everywhere and sent them to a lot of girls' boyfriends, obviously she was getting so much backlash and everybody was posting about it and everybody was coming at her. So many people wanted to beat her ass. It was hilarious. She kept trying to say, no, it's not me behind the fake page, but nobody believed her. She had to go completely ghost on social media. Little did everybody know I was the mastermind behind the whole thing. She didn't show up to school for like a week or so, but then the day that she came back, I'm not exactly sure why she came back, but she got jumped by 5 girls. But not only did she get jumped, they threw her in the trash can. I almost felt bad until I remembered how long and luscious my hair used to be. Let this be a reminder to everybody to just stay in your lane. Eventually, she dropped out of that college and I'm guessing she went to some other college, but everybody hated her there, so she had to move. Damn, karma really is a bitch and so is your mom. This is a story time of why I dropped out of high school on my first day. And when I say my first day, I mean my first day of freshman year. After this, I never went back. So like I said, it was the first day of freshman year and I have extreme anxiety. My anxiety is literally so bad. I literally get anxiety just by waking up in the morning. So I was super anxious for my first day of high school. I literally was running around the school. I could not find my classes. I walked into the wrong classroom several times. It was so embarrassing. But then I finally made it to my first class. I sat down in the front of the classroom. Bad idea. After running around the school and not being able to find my classes and walking into different classes that I wasn't supposed to be in, which was so embarrassing, my stomach was literally in my ass. My stomach was literally bubbling because of my anxiety. I felt so much pressure in my stomach I needed to let some out. And I thought I could get away with it, a little silent fart. It was silent, but it was not a fart. I shit my pants. Then the teacher says we're gonna go around the classroom and everyone has to stand up and say one thing about ourselves. Starting with me, since I was sitting at the front. Now this is what happened, like for part 2. This is part 2 of why I dropped out of high school my first day of freshman year. So like I said, I just shit myself in class. The teacher says we have to go around the room and everyone has to stand up and say something about themselves. And of course, I had to be sitting in the front of the classroom and I had to go first. So I just told her I didn't feel comfortable standing up and I'd rather sit down. But she said that I had to stand up and everybody has to stand up. So I clearly did not have many options and I decided that I was gonna stand up. And so I stood up and everybody gasped, even the teacher. The teacher literally made everybody get out of the classroom. And I knew from there on out, I could not show my face in that school anymore. I knew all day everyone was going to talk about that one kid that shit themselves in class. Yeah, the teacher took everyone out of the class and then I got myself cleaned up. Went to the office, told them what happened. They called my mom. They let me go home. I cried to my mom and told her I could not show my face at that school anymore. And so she pulled me out of high school and I just did online until I graduated. This is part 3 of why they call me Miss Petty. So I made a fake sugar daddy page and DM'd my boyfriend's girl best friend and asked her if she wanted to be my sugar baby. And she said yes. You want to know why she said yes? Well, that $5,000 worth of stuff she bought for my boyfriend came in handy. A week had passed since she posted all those pictures of me bald while sleeping. Oh, by the way, she saw Nair in the bathroom and used that to wash my hair. Well, a week passed and over that week, I sold all the stuff she bought for my boyfriend. I actually ended up getting like $6,000 back. So basically I told her I would pay her $1,000 a week in exchange for some sexy pics. And I sent her $700 right there so she thought it wasn't fake. Bitch didn't even know she was getting her own money back. So I sent her $1,000 a week for 5 weeks in exchange for pictures. Well, once all the money ran out, it was time for revenge. I gathered up all the pictures that she sent me, made a fake page pretending to be her, and sent the pictures to her parents, her job, the school, and to multiple girls' boyfriends on Instagram with the text, break up with your girlfriend cause I'm bored, but shh, don't tell anyone. Like for part 4. This is part 4 of why they call me Miss Petty. So after I catfished my boyfriend's girl best friend and posted her nudes everywhere and sent them to a lot of girls' boyfriends, obviously she was getting so much backlash and everybody was posting about it and everybody was coming at her. So many people wanted to beat her ass. It was hilarious. She kept trying to say, no, it's not me behind the fake page, but nobody believed her. She had to go completely ghost on social media. Little did everybody know I was the mastermind behind the whole thing. She didn't show up to school for like a week or so, but then the day that she came back, I'm not exactly sure why she came back, but she got jumped by 5 girls. But not only did she get jumped, they threw her in the trash can. I almost felt bad until I remembered how long and luscious my hair used to be. Let this be a reminder to everybody to just stay in your lane. Eventually, she dropped out of that college and I'm guessing she went to some other college, but everybody hated her there, so she had to move. Damn, karma really is a bitch and so is your mama. Story time of why I'm terrified of ever babysitting again. I started babysitting for this one family in the summer of 2019. I have my information for babysitting online, so people contact me. So the mom contacted me and said she wanted me to babysit for her 3 kids. So we set up a time and schedule. She gave me her address, you know, the usual. So when I got to her house, she had already left like 5 minutes before I arrived, and I see the kids sitting in the living room watching TV. But then I see this man walking down the steps. This man who I was assuming was the dad. He asked me who I was, and I said I was the babysitter and that I sorted things out with the mom, and if he wanted to make sure he could like call her. Well, he told me that he was the dad and that he knew I was coming. He just didn't expect me to come so early and so suddenly. I was kind of confused as why they needed a babysitter if he was already there. So I was like, okay, so he wouldn't be able to get into the house if it wasn't actually the dad, so it has to be him. Well, the mom texts me and says she's on her way home, so I put the kids to sleep and then I go home. Half an hour later, I get a text from the mom saying the kids are gone. When I described that man I saw, she said that sounded a lot like her ex-husband who has a spare key to their house. Part 2 of why I'm terrified of babysitting again. Like I said, when the mom came home after I left, she told me that the kids were gone. So I described to her the man that I saw in the house that I thought was the dad, and she told me that was the ex-husband who had a spare key to their house. But she did not believe me right away. At first, she was asking me a lot of questions, acting as if I was the one who kidnapped them. Almost as if she was accusing me of kidnapping. And you know what? Those feelings were right. Obviously, the police had to get involved, and when I spoke to them, they told me that the mom wanted to know if I knew where the kids were. And I had already told her about the man that I saw. But they said that they would also look into the ex-husband as well. So she kind of believed me, but didn't 100%. I was literally being accused of kidnapping 3 kids. But they were looking more into me because her ex-husband lived in Colorado. We lived in Kansas. So I was a prime suspect up until they interviewed the dad and he gave himself up like for part 3 of why I'll never babysit again. So like I said, they were finally able to interview the dad, but it took a while because he lived in a different state. But when they interviewed him, he mentioned this girlfriend that he had. It was his current girlfriend, and so they asked him where she lived and all that good stuff. Well, the police decided that they were going to question the girlfriend as well. So they went over to the girlfriend's house, they knocked on the door, and as soon as they knock on the door, the police hear a child crying. The dad didn't mention anything about his girlfriend having kids. And the next thing you know, a toddler runs up to the door. A toddler that looks exactly like one of the kids that I was babysitting. And so the police arrested the girlfriend and the police arrested the dad for kidnapping 3 children. Mom finally got her kids back and everything was good. The kids were not harmed in any way. This all happened in the span of like a week or 2. The mom actually ended up coming to me and personally apologizing about how she acted. But I told her it was no biggie because anybody would act like that in a situation where their kids were gone. And I continued to babysit her kids. Here's another babysitting horror story, and how my babysitter almost killed me and my baby sister. So it first started when my parents hired a babysitter for us. At first she was really sweet, and then she started being really mean out of nowhere. She started hitting us when we would cry, and she would blow cigarette smoke in our face. One time when she was driving us home from the grocery store, my baby sister was crying really hard the whole entire car ride. When we got home, she got me out of the car and brought in the groceries, but she left my 2-year-old sister in the car. It was 103 degrees. And she left her in there. That's honestly when I first started becoming scared of her. But why I became terrified of her is because one time my parents went on vacation for like a week. And one night my babysitter ordered pizza. My parents sent the babysitter the money for it. It was for all of us, but she wanted to get anchovies on the pizza. I told her I didn't really want that, but she ordered it anyway. When the pizza came, I didn't really want to eat it. And instead of her being like, well, I'll just make you something else, she locked me into a room for 3 days. She would only let me out to use the bathroom, but I wasn't allowed to eat anything. After that, she made starving us a regular thing. Then my parents came back and took us to the hospital for a checkup, like for part 2. This is part 2 of my babysitting horror story. So like I said, my parents came back from vacation and took us to the hospital for a checkup. They took us to the hospital because they noticed we were getting really skinny. When we got to the hospital, the doctor said my 2-year-old baby sister only weighed 19 to 20 pounds. And I was 13 at the time, I only weighed 90 pounds. The look on my mom and dad's face was enough. So when we got back into the car, I finally told them about what the babysitter had been doing. Now hold on tight, because the way my mama reacted to this, you would have thought somebody possessed her. Immediately, my mom started going off on my dad, like yelling and screaming at him. And he just had his hands in his face. I was so confused as to what was going on. See, I didn't know my dad when I was younger. He passed away before I was born. And so I found out that my current dad at the time wasn't my real dad. And I didn't know the truth until this whole babysitting situation. She babysat me for like a month and then my parents fired her. I'm 23 now. I honestly could have forgotten all about her. Well, just last year, my mom told me that babysitter was my dad's ex-wife. Well, anyways, this is what my mom did to my stepdad's ex-wife after we went to the hospital. This is part 3 of my babysitting horror story. So like I said, I finally told my parents about what the babysitter had been doing to me and my baby sister. I was so confused as to why my mom started going off on my dad right away after I told her. But 10 years later, I'm finally finding out that my babysitter was my stepdad's ex-wife. My mom told me that she had been really iffy about letting my stepdad's ex-wife babysit me and my little sister, but she only agreed with it to save money. So my mom told my dad to get out of the driver's seat. She got into the driver's seat and she started driving. I wasn't exactly sure where we were going and my dad didn't know either, but we ended up at the babysitter's house. Luckily for her, she wasn't home because my mom would have dropped her. Shit, she might have even got a murder charge that day. But my mom told me to get a rock and to just start chucking them at her windows. So that's what I did. There, me and my mom were chucking rocks at my babysitter's window. And my dad was watching us holding my baby sister. My mom didn't take her to court or anything. I'm not exactly sure why. Probably something to do with my dad. But my mom made my dad cut contact with her completely and they fired her.